Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha, Jaya Girivaradhari, Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha, Jaya Girivaradhari, Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Yashoda Nandana, Jaya Vrajajana Ranjana. Jaya Yashoda Nandana, Jaya Vrajajana Ranjana. Jaya Yamuna Tiravana Chari, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Yamuna Tiravana Chari, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada. Jai Vishwapada Paramahamsa Acharya Shtotra Shada Sri Śrīmad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishwapada Paramahamsa Acharya Shtotra Shada Sri Śrīmad Bhaktivedanta Thakur Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananda Kodi Vaishnava Vrinde Ki Jai. Grandhara Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 2, entitled Ajamila, delivered by the Vishnu Dutas, verse number 45 and 46. Evam saviplavita sarvadharma dasya padipadito garhya karmana nipatyamano nirehata vrata sadyo vimukto bhagavan nama grihnan. Evam saviplavita sarvadharma dasya padipadito grihya karmana nipatyamano nirehata vrata sadyo vimukto bhagavan nama grihnan. Evam saviplavita sarvadharma dasya padipadito garhya karmana nipatyamano nirehata vrata sadyo vimukto bhagavan nama grihnan. Evam saviplavita sarvadharma asya padipadito garhya karmana patyamano nirehata vrata Sadhyo vimukto bhagavan nama grihnan. Evam saviplavita sarva dharma. Dasya padipadido garhya karmana. Nipatyamano nirehadavrata. Sadhyo vimukto bhagavan nama grihnan. Evam saviplavita sarva dharma. Dasya padipadido garhya karmana. Nipatyamano nirehadavrata. Sadhyo vimukto bhagavan nama grihnan. Mataji. Evam saviplavita sarva dharma. Dasya padi. Evam saviplavita sarva dharma. Sadhyo vimukto bhagavan. Word to word translation. Evam, in this way. Saha, he ajamila. Viplavida sarva dharmaha, who gave up all religious principles. Dasyaha patihi, the husband of a prostitute. Patitaha, fallen. Garhya karmana, by being engaged in abominable activities. Nipatyamanaha, falling. Niraye, in hellish life. Hatavrataha, who broke all his vows. Sadhyaha, immediately. Vimuktaha, liberated. Bhagavat Nama, the holy name of the Lord. Grihnan, chanting. Ajamila was a Brahmana who, because of bad association, had given up all Brahminical culture and religious principles. Becoming most fallen, he stole, drank, and performed other abominable acts. He even kept a prostitute. Thus, he was destined to be carried away to hell by the order carriers of Yamaraj. But he was immediately rescued simply by a glimpse of the chanting of the holy name Narayana. Nata param karma nibandha krintanam mumokshatam tirtha padhanugirtanam. Na yat punah karmasu sajjade mano rajastamobhyam kalilam tatonyadha. Next verse is the 46th verse. Therefore, one who desires freedom from material bondage should adopt the process of chanting and glorifying the name, fame, form, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, at whose feet all the holy places stand. One cannot derive the proper benefit from other methods, such as pious atonement, speculative knowledge, and meditation in mystic yoga. Because even after following such methods, one takes to fruitive activities again, unable to control his mind, which is contaminated by the base qualities of nature, namely passion and ignorance. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It has actually been seen that even after achieving so-called perfection, many karmis, jnanis, and yogis become attached to material activities again. Many so-called swamis and yogis give up material activities as false, jagan midhya. But after some time, they nevertheless resume material activities by opening hospitals and schools or performing other activities for the benefit of the public. Sometimes they participate in politics. Hare Krishna. Bala. We had to sit there a bit far. Sometimes they participate in politics, although still falsely declaring themselves sannyasis, members of the renounced order. The perfect conclusion, however, is that if one actually desires to get out of the material world, he must take to devotion service, which begins with Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnoho, chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord. The Krishna consciousness movement has actually proved this. In the Western countries, many young boys who were addicted to drugs, who had many other bad habits, which they could not give up, abandoned all those propensities and very seriously engaged in chanting the glories of the Lord as soon as they joined the Krishna consciousness movement. In other words, this process is the perfect method of atonement for actions performed in Rajaha and Tamaha, passion and ignorance, as stated in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam 1:2-19. Tada rajastamo bhavaha kamalo bhadayasche cheta eter anavidham stitam sattve prasidati. As a result of Rajaha and Tamaha, one becomes increasingly lusty and greedy. But when one takes to the process of chanting and hearing, one comes to the platform of goodness and becomes happy. As he advances in devotion service, all his doubts are completely eradicated. Bhidyate hridaya granthis chidyate sarva samshayaha. Thus the knot of his desires for fruitive activities is cut to pieces. Om jnanatimrandhasya jnananchana shalakaya chakshur unmilitam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha Shri Chaitanya manobhishtam sthapitam yena bhutale swayam rupa kadamahyam dadati swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanutam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanutamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vranda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bhutair Mahatbhir Yayima Puro Vibhu Nirmaya Shete Yadamusha Purusha Bhungte Gunan Shodasha Asmaka Solankrishishta Bhagavan Vachamsi Me Hare Krishna. Here we are almost towards the end of this chapter. Ajamila delivered by the Vishnu Dutas. And we can see these verses are very conclusive statements, wherein very conclusively presenting the glories of the holy name, specifically in terms of the results of chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra and how it is different from other processes. So it is very significant verses, and Srila Prabhupada has personally given a lecture on these two verses 45 and 46 in Prayag. So it's very interesting to go through this purport as well as Srila Prabhupada's lecture on the same verses. So here, a very significant point is mentioned that one may adopt to many other processes of spiritual salvation. However, there is always a chance of fall down, and Prabhupada presents different instances how different yogis and jnanis have fallen down from their paths, even though they made some advancement in the respective paths. So here, that is a significant point here. The importance of bhakti in comparison to other processes. And at the same time, we can see the glories of bhakti, especially chanting the holy names of the Lord. So here, contrasting between the essence of bhakti process, which is chanting at this point, and other processes like jnana, karma, yoga, etc. Now, if you look into other processes such as impersonalism, jnana, there is a serious problem in that process. The first problem is that how can you worship or meditate on something which doesn't have any name, any form, any qualities, or any activities? First of all, can you think about something which doesn't have any of these attributes? If there is name, at least we can think about the name. If there is form, you can think about the form. Because mind needs all these attributes to meditate on something. For example, if I think about a person, so let's think about Prabhupada. You all think about Prabhupada means immediately the form of Prabhupada will come to the mind. Maybe some pictures, maybe the deity that we have of Srila Prabhupada, or a movie clip of Srila Prabhupada, something will come to the mind. And when we hear Prabhupada, that is inducing other attributes of that person. So from name, form is coming, qualities are coming, because with love, devotees think about Srila Prabhupada or Krishna or other devotees. So the qualities are coming to our mind. And of course the activities. So it's a natural flow of the mind to go through this, and this is very natural to the mind. That's why we have emotions, because when these attributes comes, and since there is connection, naturally there is an eruption of emotions. However, if we tell, okay, there is no name, there is no form, there is no quality, there are no activities. If you tell and you meditate on something like that, is it possible? No. Then now, yes, it is very difficult. Then now tell me one thing. One has to control one's own senses and mind, especially when there are so many provocations, based on this connection to this impersonal aspect of the Lord. How practical it is. Think about it. Krishna himself answered this question in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna asks very clearly, shall I worship the Supreme Lord in your form as Krishna, or worship the impersonal Brahman? Krishna says, Klesho adhikatarastesham avyakta asakta chedasam avyaktam hi gadir dukham dehavat bhir avapyate. Krishna says, klesha, everyone knows the meaning of klesha, difficult. And it is not normal difficulty. Adhikatara. Adhika means extra. Adhikatara means one more extra large. Adhikatara stesham. For them, it is not just great difficulty, greater difficulty. Avyakta asakta chedasam. Those who are attached to avyakta, the unmanifested impersonal form of the Lord. Then he says, avyaktam hi gadir dukkham. So he uses the word dukkham. Dukkham means it is painful. It is a miserable, the process itself is miserable. Right? Think about it. Krishna says dukkham he uses in Bhagavad Gita. Where else he uses the dukkham? He uses dukkham. A very classic statement of Krishna in connection to this material world. Krishna uses the word dukkham. Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. So see, Krishna is using the word dukkham in connection to this material existence, that we know problems going through this in this world. Yes, dukkhalayam and ashashvatam. It is a house of miseries. And also in connection to the process of worshipping the impersonal Brahman. He uses the same word dukkham. So he mentions why. Prabhupada explains in the beautiful purport there. Because we are attached to form. We have a material form. So we are attached to form, and immediately say, forget about all form, forget about all qualities, activities. It is very difficult. We are not used to it. So it is difficult to attain perfection through that path. However, if somebody is trying to do that, then the progress is very difficult. And not only that, think about controlling the senses simply based on this. What is the essence of this kind of jnana process? What is the essential qualification one need to have even to attempt the process of jnana? Who can tell? Any idea? What is the qualification for jnana? Yeah, celibacy, but even before that, even to have celibacy, even to maintain celibacy, one needs something. Yeah, but what one needs? Sense control. And to have sense and mind control, what one needs? Austerity. Knowledge is required. Knowledge, and even to gain knowledge, something else is required. Who can tell? Something is very essential. Yes? Yes, one has to be intelligent. Intelligence is essential in the process of jnana. Nothing can be replaced. Intelligence is required. So if mind is deviating by intelligence, understanding Shastra, one has to control the mind. So this is the process of jnana, and it is very difficult. Because steady intelligence is very difficult, right? Eating prasadam is easy for us. Chanting and dancing is easy for us. With intelligence, we have to control the mind. It can be very difficult. We have engagement. See the support that we have. If mind is disturbed, we don't need to immediately think about 100 verses of Bhagavad Gita. Yes, part of the verses we had to remember. We had to use the intelligence. But immediately we can engage our senses in some service to Krishna. We can pick up the bead bag and chant. See the facilities that we have. Whereas, simply by the strength of intelligence, how far one can control the mind? It is very difficult. And so, what happens for the impersonalist preaching, if we give the Vedanta philosophy, they will not get a crowd. Right? People has to come. Generally, if we speak all philosophy, if you look at people, half will be sleeping. Here also that is true. Early morning come and sit, and if you only speak philosophy, half will be dozing. So that is our condition. And now, even impersonalists, they want followers. Correct or no? They want followers. So they speak a little bit of philosophy. They also adopt to the bhakti techniques, but without any potency. How? They will also speak different pastimes. Since there is no real bhakti, to attract the crowd, there had to be good speakers. There had to be charismatic speakers. And there has to be violin in the background. There has to be musical accompaniment and nice singing, so that people will get captivated. People will come and sit. Swamiji is speaking very good. And that singing, so amazing. So this is how they captivate people. This is the only way they can get people. Because with the strength of bhakti or purity, it is not possible. And they are very scholarly too. They know, they can tell any stories. That's why Srila Prabhupada says, in Bhagavad Gita you can read, in the 3rd chapter purports, that these Mayavadis, since they have no taste in their own process, which is confirmed by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, so what do? They pick up Bhagavatam and they want to narrate all the stories to get some people, otherwise who will sit in front of them? Because you speak Upanishad, even intelligent people struggle to understand. And common people, if you start speaking, what will happen? Nothing will happen. So they need to tell all these different kind of stories without any potency, because there is no faith. People have no faith. They also no faith. But it is only a sentimental, emotional experience. That's about it. And it will not purify anyone. That's why Avaishnava Mukha Udgirnam Putam Harikathamritam. What happens to that? Shravanam Naiva Kartavyam Sarpochishtam Yathapaya. Sanatana Goswami quotes from Padma Purana. He says, look, if you are hearing all these leelas from Mayavadis, from non-devotees, that is compared to Sarpochishtam Yathapaya. Milk, if the poison, the serpent has drank this milk and had left some poison in the milk. It looks good. If you drink, what happens? One will die. Similarly, whatever devotion one has, everything will be gone by such kind of Bhagavat Shravan, such kind of hearing of Bhagavatam. I remember I was in India. One of my cousins, he told me, early morning I was chanting. Okay, I got up and 5:30 I was chanting going on. Suddenly he called me. 6 o'clock, we have a TV show. You have to come. It is about Bhagavatam and it is so good. He was a fan of this particular person, whatever, Swami or Yogi, whoever. He was such a big fan. He said, you have to listen. Because you are also talking about Bhagavatam, this, that. Okay, you have to listen. He pulled me in. And Swami started speaking. And I was thinking, when is Mayavad going to come? That was the question. I was just waiting. When is it going to come? Waited for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Immediately, he started his Mayavad. What was that? Just like we have hand has 5 fingers. Like that. Brahma, Shiva, Ganesh, Vishnu, Murugan, Kartikeya, all 5. Everyone is same. Just like we have 5 fingers, everything is same. So 5 minutes only started Mayavada. So they want to tell some stories and then on top of that gives a Mayavada. So this is the technique. And then bhajan and kirtan. That is also very captivating, very attractive. They get good singers to sing. Very captivating because there is no taste in the process. No one is attracted by the impersonal philosophy and its presentation. So to attract, they bring bhakti process but without any content. Because without faith, if you speak these things, there is no effect. And it is so common in India. And I have seen again and again. And that's why Srila Prabhupada is very emphatic about this presentation. Because we need to give the real knowledge. Otherwise, it is just useless labor. In fact, even in Bhagavatam, the first canto, we can read, Naishkarmyam api achyuta bhava varjitam na shobhade jnanam alam niranjanam. This is instruction by Narada Muni to Vyasadeva. Naishkarmyam api, even though one is getting out from all material activities and all fruitive mentalities, as it is mentioned here, by other processes. Naishkarmyam api achyuta bhava varjitam. If there is no Krishna consciousness, then na shobhade. That doesn't have, that will not shine forth or it will not endure further. One has to come down to the material platform. That's why if one is an impersonal Swami or a yogi, what happens? To develop taste, one has to do material philanthropic activities. Charitable schools, hospitals, this or that. Because the process in itself doesn't have any taste. For us, for bhaktas, for the devotees, there is all taste in the process. If there is no taste for Bhagavatam, go upstairs, have prasadam. At least there is taste for prasadam. As simple as that. It is so simple, bhakti is. So one will have taste for at least one of the aspects of bhakti. So that is the significance of bhakti process. And at the same time, so to them it is mentioned here, one need to faith that, okay, only one has to perform bhakti and the essence of bhakti is chanting Krishna's names. How about those who are attached to all the rituals? If you go to, still we see, Monday this puja, Tuesday go to that temple, Wednesday do the other thing, Thursday do some fasting, Friday this, that, or every day there is something. In the calendar, we can have the calendar, Monday till Sunday, what puja to perform. And if you go and tell them, no need to do all these kind of things, but you chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Is it easy? It's not easy. They will not accept. You will tell, what are you speaking about? We have been doing this for lifetimes. How can we stop this? So it takes some faith to understand that bhakti is the process. So even devotees do struggle. In devotees, they think, if we don't worship our Kula Devata, what will happen to us? They will curse us. Now we are chanting, we are initiated, all good. But if we don't worship our Kula Devata, what will happen to the family? So it takes some faith to understand that chanting of Hare Krishna includes everything. We don't need to worry about this and that. We have to be very clear about these kind of things. Otherwise, the process is not perfect in terms of our practice. The process is perfect, but our practice is not perfect. And as far as yogis are concerned, they are doing for many lifetimes. Srila Prabhupada was in Kumbh Mela, and devotees were there with Prabhupada, and he saw young boys coming out of water from Ganges, taking bath and coming out. Prabhupada asked the devotees, do you know how old are they? Devotees didn't know. Prabhupada said, they are at least 300 or 400 years old. The yogis, they are controlling their breath and performing this yoga for so many lifetimes. But devotees are saying it is not required because the process is chanting Krishna's names. And so these kind of processes are not required, rather simply by taking up Krishna consciousness, one can perfect. So this is the instruction of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and all great teachers. Now, here there is a mention about falling down, right? Who will fall down? Those who adopt to other processes, they can fall down because of the influence of Rajas and Tamas. Because of the Rajogun and Tamogun, one can fall down. But devotees will not fall down. Devotees have hope. Who speaks this? Okay, Krishna speaks in Bhagavad Gita, right? Where? Does Krishna speak? Anyone remembers? Which chapter? Exactly, my devotees will not perish. Which chapter is this? 9th chapter, Krishna speaks, my devotees will not perish. Similar statement, more graphically, Krishna makes in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam in the 11th canto, in the 14th chapter, 18th verse, in the Uddhava Gita. But this time, he really wants to make us understand. So, he comes to our level. He mentions, okay, the problems that we are actually going through. He says, Badhyamanopi mat bhakto. Badhyamanopi. Badhyamana. You know the meaning of Badhyamana, right? Badhya means one who is completely bound. Usually we say, my devotees are completely free, liberated. But here Krishna is making the statement, understanding our situation. He says, Badhyamanopi, even though my devotee is completely bound by material attachment, by the motor of material nature, by fruitive activities, one is bound. Badhyamanopi mat bhakto vishayer ajitendriyaha. Vishayer. Vishaya means by sense gratification. My devotee is attached to sense gratification. So see, Krishna knows our situation, right? No doubt. Then he mentions ajitendriyaha, not jitendriyaha. Now we are not talking about jitendriya. We are not talking about one who has controlled all the senses and mind, has perfected. No. He is talking about a struggling devotee. Who is a struggling devotee? I am a struggling devotee. Not easy to control the mind and senses. Not very easy. So Krishna says, he is ajitendriya. But still, he says, praya pragalbhya bhaktya indriyer nabhibhuyate. He says, but still, if one performs bhakti seriously, even though there is attachment, no problem. Even the senses are not fully controlled, no problem. But do one thing, praya pragalbhya bhaktya. But one has to seriously perform bhakti. Don't give up bhakti. Then indriyer nabhibhuyate. The senses will not be able to pull us down completely. Krishna gives that assurance. So Krishna knows our condition, and he says, you practice bhakti without deviation, even though there are some problems with the mind and the senses. Doesn't matter, perform bhakti. And then rest he will take care. Krishna gives the assurance, and this is exactly opposite to the statement here about other processes. Because even one may perform other processes, still one can fall down. So that is what is given here. Hare Krishna. Keep quiet. I will read this purport. It's a very, very interesting purport. Abhibhuyate indicates falling down into the material world and being defeated by Maya. But even though one's senses are not fully conquered, one who has unflinching devotion for Lord Krishna does not run the risk of being separated from him. The word praya pragalbhya bhaktya indicates a person who has great devotion for Krishna, and not one who desires to commit sinful activities and chant Hare Krishna to avoid the reaction. So it is talking about a bit of serious chanting, not performing chanting and then doing sinful activities, thinking the chanting is going to counteract. That's not going to work. Because of previous bad habits and immaturity, even a sincere devotee may be harassed by lingering attraction to the bodily concept of life, but his unflinching devotion for Lord Krishna will act. Srila Vishwanath Thakur gives the following two examples. Here this example: a great warrior may be struck by the weapon of his enemy, but because of his courage and strength, he is not killed or defeated. He accepts the blow and goes on to victory. So we had to be like warriors. There can be problems, but keep going. Similarly, one may contract a serious disease, but if he takes the proper medicine, he is quickly cured. See, this is the point. Here also the impersonalism comes in the purport. So if we take to the process and if we keep going, ultimate victory is for the devotees, and we need to understand. So that's why we had to understand the importance of the essential process of bhakti, which is chanting. So we had to be serious about chanting. I have heard many chanting workshops. In this, we understand that when it comes to chanting, one has to make both external and internal arrangements for chanting, of which the first thing is external arrangement. External arrangement means to avoid a distractive external environment in chanting. And for that, now to be distracted, we don't need anyone around us to be distracted. What do we have for our distraction? Mobile phone. So first thing in chanting is keep your mobile phone away. If you want to improve your chanting, that is the first step. If you are chanting at home, leave it in another room. And if you are coming in the temple room, leave in the car or in the ashram. That is the first thing in chanting. If you are serious about chanting, that is the first step. Unless there is a specific service or a specific call one is expecting. Then, otherwise, just keep it aside. Because that is enough to waste our time and to make us distracted. So this is the first step. And then if somebody is chatting, don't sit in the middle of the conversation and start chanting. What to speak about chanting and watching the television? As someone told, I get all my chanting done while watching the TV. So in that way, I'm doing all my chanting. This is not going to work. We have to understand. This external arrangement is the first thing. It is very important. And then external arrangement is allotting exact time when we're going to chant. I'm not going to chant any time. I'll chant sometime. No. Tomorrow's chanting begins today. Tonight you need to know when am I going to chant tomorrow. There has to be set time and set place in chanting. Then we'll understand the chanting will improve. Because if we have a set place and time, and if we are not distracted, then we are clear what we are going to do. So we have to make arrangements for chanting. Otherwise, if we are doing whatever we want, then don't expect protection from Krishna. Then it will become Bahu Janma Karihari Shravanam Kirtanam. That's all. We chant every day morning, right? Chanting for many millions of lifetimes, but we are not getting the result. Even if we are chanting without proper mindset, one will not be even to come to the point of hearing what we are chanting. Forget about advanced stages of bhakti. One cannot come to the platform of a proper sadhana bhakti where one can come to a proper stage of bhajana kriya. Forget about nishtha. Nishtha means steadiness in devotion service. Even one cannot do properly bhajana kriya. Means under the shelter of a spiritual master, in association with the devotees, chanting and doing other service. One cannot even come to that platform properly. So what to speak about steadiness in devotion service? Still one has to deal a lot with one's own anarthas, because the anarthas are not going away because we are not putting endeavor in proper chanting. Can you see the danger? So one has to track one's own chanting. I will read a section about this by Srila Prabhupada in his lecture in Prayag on the same verses, 45 and 46. I'll come to that in a few minutes. But understand the importance of chanting, how seriously we have to track our chanting. If you want, one can track one's chanting. One can write down, how was my chanting today? How many rounds I was attentive? One can write down. It is worth, because we can see after a week, for most of us, pathetic condition. Then it will give some inspiration to chant properly. Or while chanting, we think, I'm going to write down about my chanting. Again, I don't want to write. It was horrible. Again, I don't want to write, I didn't hear any mantras. So one can track one's own chanting, and it is very helpful. I track my chanting. I give a number attached to how was my chanting. It's very important, so we can see how is my chanting. We can track our own chanting. So significant it is. So with that, we can say, okay, there are problems in controlling the senses. The mind is going here and there, but still we are attempting. Then that is praya pragalbhya bhaktiya. That is proper unflinching devotion. We are doing it. We are trying to do it. Okay, there can be failures. That's all right. But at least there is attempt to do that. And then Prabhupada explains in the lecture, which was given 1971 in Prayag, January 29. Pretty close to this month. Today is 23rd. Okay, so January 29 Prayag in 1971. So Prabhupada gave this lecture on this same verse, 6-45 and 46, what we have covered so far. And in that Prabhupada says that by this process, one can get rid of bad habits of rajas and tamas. Nayat puna karmasu sajjate mano. One will not again fall down if one performs bhakti properly. And he mentions why we are worshipping the Lord. In this verse it is mentioned, Tirthapada. Srila Prabhupada explains this quality of the Lord. Tirthapada. Tirthapada means in whose feet all holy tirthas, all the holy rivers are situated. Vallabh, do you know any holy river? One holy river. Do you know one holy river? Ne? Vrindavan is not. Yeah, Vrindavan, there is holy name and river. What is the name? Ganga, not in Vrindavan. Yamuna. Okay, got it. So we know some holy rivers. So all these holy rivers, Ganga, Yamuna, Cheva, Godavari, Saraswati, Narmade, Sindhu, Kaveri, all these holy rivers are present at the feet of Krishna. That's why in this verse it is mentioned Tirtha Pada. Krishna is Tirtha Pada. And Tirtha Pada also means all the devotees are situated at the feet of Krishna. And so by worshipping Krishna, what happens? We can get out from Rajogun and Tamogun. That is very helpful. And chanting is a great practice because Rajogun and Tamogun are pulling us when we are chanting, and it is very, very helpful. So now, Prabhupada talks about bad habits. He talks about a few things. First, he starts speaking about overeating. He quotes from Nectar of Instruction and he tells, Atyahara prayasascha. He starts from overeating. He tells, if one is influenced by too much of rajas and tamas, you're going to eat too much. So Prabhupada starts from there and he becomes very instructive. And he says, what should be our effect of chanting? He says, we should understand how we are making progress by chanting. Because the whole chapter was about chanting, so we had to take some practical measures to improve our chanting. That's why I spoke about chanting. Here in the same lecture, Prabhupada says, we should understand how we are making progress by chanting. Anyone can examine himself. Okay, hear this. Whether I am being attracted by these two qualities, namely rajas, tamas, the passion, the mode of passion, the mode of ignorance. Tada rajastamo bhava. So because the resultant action of chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra without offense in the mind is that the mind will not be attracted by these two material qualities. That is the test. So this is the test. So Prabhupada is telling offenseless chanting. So Prabhupada is bringing to the point because he is mentioning about this particular chapter, and we have to aim at offenseless chanting, which starts from attentive chanting. And for attentive chanting, first we have to make an external circumstance, and then we can make the internal circumstance for chanting. So there are steps to be taken to practically apply this chapter, as it is mentioned here, chanting the holy name of Narayana by Ajamal, faintly. We are given all the knowledge, we are given all the circumstances, and so we had to take proper advantage. Otherwise, what are we doing? I will mention one more point about chanting, and I'll stop and I'll move to the next topic, which is also very important. So, I will read this verse by Sanatan Goswami. He shares his realization about the holy name in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. In the very beginning, he chants this verse. Jayati Jayati Namananda Rupam Murare. He says, Jayati Jayati Namananda Rupam Murare. Jayati Jayati means all glories to all blissful form of the holy name of Krishna. Namananda Rupam Murarehe. Murari is Namananda Rupam. All blissful form. Krishna's blissful form has appeared as Krishna's names. And then he says, Viramita Nija Dharma Pujadi Yatnam. What happens? One Viramita, it is very significant to these two verses because Viramita means, anyone knows the meaning of Viramita? Viram. Any idea? Stop, stopping, retiring. Viramita, one can stop. This chanting really starts when one gives up other processes. What is that? Nija Dharma Dhyana Pujadi Yatnam. You know Pujadi Yatnam, right? I had to do that puja, I had to do the other puja, astrologer told this, that, etc. So many, the big list is there. So when one stops all those kind of things, and then one can start seriously chanting Krishna's names, understanding its potency. So that is Viramita Nija Dharma Dhyana Pujadi Yatnam. One can give up all this meditation as well, not required. Then what? Kathamapi Sagradatam Muktidam Praninam Yat. Even accidentally, even if one chants one's holy name of the Lord, Sagradatam Muktidam Praninam Yat. This can give mukti for living entities. This is the only hope for the living entities. And that's why we have Harinama Sankirtan. That's why we have book distribution. Because this chanting can give muktidam, it can give liberation from material clutches. Even if somebody is not at all interested in spirituality, but still, by accidentally hearing Krishna's names, they get purified. So that's why it is mentioned. Muktidam praninam yat. For the living entities, those who are not interested in spirituality at all, even they can start their process by this process of chanting, just by hearing this holy names. That's why Muktidam praninam yat. And then he shares his own realization. He says, Paramam Amrutam Ekam Jivanam Bhushanam Me. He says, this is Paramam Amrutam. This is the ultimate nectar. That is his realization about the holy name. Paramam Amrutam Ekam Jivanam. This is my only life. Bhushanam, this is my only treasure. So this is the realization of Srila Sanatana Goswami about chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So we will stop here the description about the holy name and the inefficacy of other processes. Now we will move to today, which is a very important day because today is the appearance day of Gopala Bhatta Goswami. We don't have a lot of time, so briefly I will narrate a few pastimes about Gopala Bhatta Goswami. As we know, Gopala Bhatta Goswami is one among the 6 Goswamis who are the direct followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who resided in Vrindavan, established temple and wrote many literatures for the benefit of the humanity. We chant, Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyugo Sri Jiva Gopalako. So there, Gopalako, that is in dual, Gopalako. 2 Gopalas. One is Bhatta Gopalako. So referring to Gopala Bhatta Goswami. So this is referring to Gopala Bhatta Goswami. Raghuyugo, Gopala, Raghuyugo it's mentioned. One is Raghunath Das and Raghunath Bhatta. So and this is Gopala Bhatta Goswami, who wrote very important books for Vaishnavas and established one of the most beautiful temples in Vrindavan. That is Radha Ramanji temple. And he wrote the very important book which is even now used by the Vaishnavas, which is Satkriya Saradipika, the book about Vaishnava rituals. So now we'll speak a bit about Gopala Bhatta Goswami, who was born in Srirangam, in Rangakshetra in South India. So he was born to Venkata Bhatta, as we might have heard. Venkata Bhatta is a descendant coming in the Ramanuja Sampradaya, Sri Sampradaya. And he was a great devotee of Lakshmi Narayan. Residing in Srirangam, he worshipped Lord Ranganath. And we know the pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who visited Rangakshetra. As he was traveling throughout India, propagating holy names of the Lord, he reached Rangakshetra, Srirangam. There, he chanted and danced in front of Lord Ranganath. Seeing that all the devotees there, they were amazed, seeing these ecstatic expressions. They were wondering, who is this great personality? They have never seen such ecstasy in anyone. They had never seen such sweet kirtan. They have never seen such sweet dancing. Venkata Bhatta, a prominent personality in Srirangam, happened to see this chanting and dancing from a distance, and he was drawn by the beautiful form and singing of Lord Chaitanya. He removed the crowd and he pushed through, and somehow or other he went in front, and he happened to see the beautiful form of Lord Chaitanya chanting and dancing. Think about that. This is the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the epitome of all beauty. He has beauty to its maximum, infinite amount of beauty. Shadaishwarya Purna. And Venkata Bhatta is now seeing that with his own eyes. Lord collapsed during the kirtan out of ecstasy. So Venkata Bhatta went and he approached the Lord. When he came to external consciousness, Venkata Bhatta requested Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, "Oh Lord, kindly come to my place and accept prasadam." So Venkata Bhatta invited Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya went to the house of Venkata Bhatta. There, Venkata Bhatta washed the feet of Lord Chaitanya, drank that water, that charnamrita, distributed among his family, and cooked a wonderful feast and offered to the Lord. Venkata Bhatta, a great Brahmana, a great devotee, he was so fortunate to personally host Mahaprabhu. So Mahaprabhu was very pleased by the hospitality of Venkata Bhatta and his family. There was this young boy. Who was that? Sri Gopala Bhatta. So Gopala Bhatta was assisting in serving Lord Chaitanya. Gopala Bhatta was very much drawn by the beauty and character of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then Chaturmasya was approaching. So Venkata Bhatta requested Lord Chaitanya, for the 4 months when sannyasis don't travel because of the rainy season, please stay at my place and give me the opportunity to serve you. Lord Chaitanya, understanding the devotion of Venkata Bhatta, accepted the invitation. He stayed there for 4 months. Can you imagine? Supreme Personality of Godhead coming to your home and staying there for 4 months. All the time with the Supreme Lord. So Venkata Bhatta was so fortunate. So there, Gopala Bhatta got the opportunity to serve the Lord personally, day in and day out. Then Mahaprabhu was so pleased with Gopala Bhatta that after eating, he would give his remnants, Mahaprasadam to Gopala Bhatta, and he would eat the Mahaprasadam. And then there was this wonderful conversation that took place between Lord Chaitanya and Venkata Bhatta about the ultimate aspect of bhakti. So jokingly, we will not get into the details of the conversation. But Lord Chaitanya asked, who is supreme? Krishna or Lord Narayana? So Venkata Bhatta, being an ardent devotee of Lakshmi Narayan, he said, Narayana is supreme. Krishna is only an expansion, The ultimate truth is Narayana. Then Lord Chaitanya asked, so it's a long conversation in essence. Then why Lakshmi Devi performed so much of austerities to obtain Krishna as her husband and to enjoy with Krishna? So if you go to Vrindavan, there is Shrivan, right? There is Shrivan. Shrivan, Lakshmi Devi performed austerities for a prolonged time to get Krishna as her husband. But even after so much of austerities, she couldn't get Krishna. So Venkata Bhatta said, oh, you know everything. You know everything. He told Lord Chaitanya, you know everything. You are Supreme Lord. I know you are Supreme. You know everything. Actually, there is nothing wrong for Lakshmi Devi to aspire for Krishna. Because ultimately, Krishna and Narayan, they are the same. Then Lord Chaitanya explained, she couldn't attain Krishna even though she performed so much of austerities. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself explained that Siddhantastu abhedebi Shrisha Krishna Swarupayoho rasot krishyate Krishna rupam esha rasastitaha. Siddhantastu abhedebi. There is no difference in terms of philosophical conclusions. Both are Supreme Lord, Krishna and Narayana. But there is a difference. Rasa utkrishyate Krishnaha. However, when it comes to rasa, taste in devotion service, then Krishna is superior. So according to the principles of rasa tattva, Krishna is principle. Otherwise, both are the same, no difference. Same personalities, different mood, that's all. Yeah, he is Rasaraj. So in that way, Krishna is supreme. So Venkata Bhatta accepted. You know everything, you are the Supreme Lord. He accepted everything. And now 4 months passed and this is the time for him to leave Rangakshetra. So that was a devastation for Venkata Bhatta and his family. They were crying. So Gopala Bhatta, he wanted to go with the Supreme Lord. He didn't want to leave because he got such an association of the Supreme Lord. The most beloved Lord is now leaving. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he blessed him. Don't worry. In time, you will join me. In time, you can come to Vrindavan. But now, you continue your stay here and you serve your parents. And after their departure, you can join me. So in that way, Lord Chaitanya blessed and he left. And meanwhile, Gopala Bhatta's uncle, Venkata Bhatta's brother, Prabodhananda Saraswati, he was also a worshipper of Lakshmi Narayan. He also developed attraction for Radha and Krishna. And he became Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur. He went to Vrindavan. He wrote so many books, so many poems glorifying Vrindavan Dham. And he glorifies Vrindavan with so many beautiful, beautiful verses. So, Prabodhananda Saraswati became the spiritual master of Gopala Bhatta. So, what happened in his childhood, Prabodhananda Saraswati trained Gopala Bhatta in all the Shastras. And that's how Gopala Bhatta became an expert in Shastra. So later he came to be known as Smriti-Acharya, one who is an Acharya of Smriti. All the Smriti, all the scriptures, all the Puranas, all the Upapuranas, all those kind of things, Pancharatra, he became an expert. So he is known as Smriti-Acharya. So later, when Gopala Bhatta grew up and his parents left this world, he went to Vrindavan. There, he met with Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. And they were in great joy to meet this young Gopala Bhatta. So Gopala Bhatta was so dear to Rupa and Sanatan, so they treated as their own friend, their own younger brother. Such an affectionate dealings between Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami and Gopala Bhatta Goswami. And there are very wonderful pastimes of Gopala Bhatta Goswami. A few pastimes I will mention here. So Gopala Bhatta Goswami was helping Rupa and Sanatan in worshipping their deities. So one day, there was a dream for Rupa Goswami, and in that dream, Krishna himself told Rupa Goswami, now the time has come, Gopala Bhatta has to worship his own deities. Similarly, the same time, Gopala Bhatta Goswami had a dream. In that dream, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared and instructed Gopala Bhatta Goswami, you go to Nepal, there Gandhigi river is there. In the Gandhigi river, you go and collect Salagram Shilas and start worshipping them. So since he was ordained by Rupa Sanatan and the Lord Chaitanya himself, he started his journey all the way to Nepal. And as you know, it's a very difficult journey all the way uphill. And he went there, he went to the river, and he had his kamandalu, water pot. So he took bath in the river, Gandhagi, and with his water pot, he took water in the pot. He found that there were 12 Salagram Shilas in the water pot. So he thought, I am not really qualified to worship Salagram Shilas. And this 12 is considered very special. Worshipping 12 Salagram Shila is considered very, very, very auspicious. So here in our temple, we have 12 Salagram Shilas. So he saw this 12 Salagram Shilas in his kamandalu, and he thought, I am not qualified to worshipping them. So he felt very humble. He left the Shilas in the water, and he took bath with the kamandalu. Whenever he picks kamandalu from the water, he found there are 12 Salagram Shilas. Can you imagine? So then he finally understood, yes, this is the desire of the Lord that I should worship these Salagram Shilas. Then he took them and started worshipping them. So this is the devotion and humility of Gopala Bhatta Goswami. Then there is this pastime. He went to near Haridwar. There he met a Brahmana, and the season was not good. The temperature and the whole atmosphere was not at all favorable for travel. That time, he took shelter of a Brahmana near Haridwar in Saharanpur. So that time, this Brahmana didn't have any children. So Gopala Bhatta Goswami, he blessed this Brahmana, saying that you will get a son who will be a great devotee of the Lord. So this Brahmana became very happy, and he said that when my first child grows up, I will send him to you for your assistant to serve you. When I have a son, when he's grown up, I will send him to you so that he will be your assistant. So Gopala Bhatta accepted, and he left. He continues his journey, and he came back to Vrindavan, and he was worshipping the Lord. He continued worshipping his Salagram Shila. He used to have his Salagram Shila covered in a cloth and hung around his neck. So wherever he would go, he would have his Salagram Shilas with him. And one day, a rich merchant gave lot of jewelry and fine clothes and told Goswami, please use these clothes and ornament for the worship of your lordships. So Gopala Bhatta Goswami started thinking, I don't have a deity to decorate and clothe the Lord. I don't have a deity. I have only Salagram Shila. Salagram Shila, they don't have hand, leg, etc. manifested. They have everything, but they're not manifested. We cannot offer clothes to Salagram Shila. Our offering of clothes to Salagram Shila is where they sit on. That is a cloth offering. Idam Vastram is where they sit on. There is no other clothes. So he started thinking, and he had intense desire to have a deity so that he can worship them, he can decorate them. So with that thought, Gopala Bhatta Goswami slept. And when he got up in the morning, and it was the time for him to worship the Salagram Shila, then his Damodar Shila now manifested himself into the form of a beautiful deity. So Salagram Shila, black stone, grew up into the form of a beautiful deity. He was surprised. He was in ecstasy, and he was thinking, what happened? How come the Salagram Shila has taken up the form of the deity, of the form of Krishna? playing the flute, the same form. Then he immediately informed Rupa and Sanatan. So they also came to see this deity. And all the Goswamis and all of them came to see this deity, and they were amazed to see this beautiful form of Krishna. And Rupa and Sanatan gave the name as Radha Ramanji. So that is the appearance of Radha Ramanji. And even Vrindavan, even till now, their appearance is celebrated, right? It's a big celebration, that the appearance day of Radha Ramanji. Very beautiful deity, very small deity, but very beautiful. You can see the smiling face of Radha Ramanji, and you can even see the teeth, right? Small teeth. So such a fine deity automatically manifested, Swayambhu. So this is the devotion of Sri Gopala Bhatta Goswami. Now I'll mention a few more points and conclude that one day Gopala Bhatta Goswami went to Yamuna to take bath, and when he came back, a young boy was sitting in front of his house, in front of his kutir. So Gopala Bhatta Goswami asked, "Who are you?" So this boy said, "Look, I am your servant." So Gopala Bhatta Goswami, "How come you are my servant?" He said, "I am coming near from Haridwar, Saharanpur. That's where I was born by your blessings. So I am grown up now. So my father sent me unto you to be your servant." So Gopala Bhatta Goswami was very, very happy. He accepted this boy and he became the pujari of Radha Ramanji. And it is mentioned he remained a brahmachari and entire life he worshipped Radha Ramanji. So that is the we can see how this Brahmana kept his promise, and how this boy worshipped the Lord entire life. So his name was Gopinath Pujari Ji. So he worshipped the Lord for all his life. Now I'll briefly mention about his literary contribution, which is very important. One, Satkriya Sara Deepika, which is a very important book for Vaishnavas, because all the rituals that are performed among Vaishnavas, when a baby is born, there is Namakarana, there is Jata Kriya, there is head shaving, there is all the ceremonies are there till Antyeshti, from Garbhodhana till Antyeshti. Before conception of the child, Garbhodhana Samskara till Antyeshti. All the samskaras are mentioned in this book, because it has to be performed according to Vaishnava standards, not according to otherwise. So all these reformatory ceremonies are mentioned by Gopala Bhatta Goswami in this book. And along with that, if we consider his philosophical contribution, we all know about Shad Sandarbhas. Who is the author of Shad Sandarbhas? Srila Jiva Goswami. However, Srila Jiva Goswami mentions about Gopala Bhatta Goswami in Shadda Sandarbha. He mentioned Dakshinatyeka Brahmana. He mentioned from South India, there is a Brahmana from South India who is the very dear friend of Rupa and Sanatan. He actually compiled, or he actually wrote the original Shat Sandarbhas. So Gopala Bhatta Goswami originally wrote Shat Sandarbha, but it was incomplete. So Jiva Goswami, he completed it. Wherever it was missing, wherever it has to be supported by more evidences, all those were given by Jiva Goswamis. But the original manuscript was written by Gopala Bhatta Goswami. And that's why in Sandarbhas, there are many mentions about the works from Ramanujacharya and his followers. So when there are many conclusions are presented, and when they are supported, he takes it from Sri Vaishnavas. Wherever there are supportive evidences required, he has taken from Sri Vaishnavas. So in that way, we can see the contribution of Gopala Bhatta Goswami in the writings of Shat Sandarbhas as well. So with this, I conclude, and I'll tell you a final pastime about his mood. How he blessed Sri Kaviraj Goswami, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was now ready to write Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. under the instruction of Goswamis, like Raghunatha Bhatta Goswami, and he had this dream, and also he got the sanction of the Lord. We know how he went in front of Madan Mohan deity and how he got the blessings, etc. So he got all the blessings, and now he wanted the blessings of Gopala Bhatta Goswami. So he went and approached Gopala Bhatta Goswami, and Gopala Bhatta Goswami gave the blessings, but under one condition. The condition was that in Chaitanya Charitamrita, don't mention my name. I can give you my blessings if you don't mention my name. That's why Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami never mentioned about Gopala Bhatta Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Maybe once or two times just touched upon, but no pastimes are mentioned. So this is the mood of Gopala Bhatta Goswami. The humility of Gopala Bhatta Goswami. That's why we can see that Jiva Goswami mentions about him in Shat Sandarbha. And also Hari Bhakti Vilas also, he attributed Hari Bhakti Vilas also to Gopala Bhatta Goswami out of love for him. So he said, this book is written by, Sanatana Goswami wrote, this book is written by Gopala Bhatta Goswami. But everyone knows that, okay, it's not written by Gopala Bhatta Goswami, but it is by Sanatana Goswami himself. So this is a loving connection and humility of these Goswamis, and here about Gopala Bhatta Goswami. So I conclude here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Anyone has any one quick question? One or two, then we can answer. Yes. Of course, even if you go now, still there are Salagram Shilas in Gandagil over. Yes. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Okay. Sivya. A bit more loudly. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Okay. Question is, Ajamila chanted Krishna's name at the time of death, but he didn't go back, right? He had to perform more devotion service. Then only he went back. Why? Because Bhagavad Gita says, right? Yam yam va bismaran bhavam tejatyante kalevaram. He mentioned, whatever you think, you had to go back there. Ajamila didn't go back. So that is because he chanted, he had a faint form of chanting. He didn't do any pure chanting. He didn't call the Lord, rather he called his son. So because of that, it was so effective that he got liberated from all the sinful activities. However, he didn't get impersonal liberation, because by the mercy of the Lord, he will not get impersonal liberation, because now he has association of great devotees, Vishnu Dutas. So he got an opportunity to continue devotion service perfect and go back home, back to Godhead. Yes, he got liberation from all the sinful activities by chanting Narayana at the time of death. But he got an additional opportunity, not just to get liberation. He was already liberated now, but to practice bhakti and go to the abode of Narayana. Why? Because he got the association of the devotees. Make sense? So that's why this is a great opportunity. So he was already liberated. That chanting, he was already liberated. Haridas Thakur says, by namabhas one can get liberation. That's what Ajamila did. By namabhas one can get liberation, but the devotees are not after liberation. Devotees are after service to the Lord. That is only in the spiritual world. Okay. Thank you very much. Granthara Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.